night on Halloween. Tom and Ed were fast asleep while Matt watched TV and ate some sweets. A little girl knocked and said, "Trick or treat!" Matt slammed the door and took a seat, but suddenly she was on the screen. The lights flickered, this wasn't a dream. She leapt at him and he screamed. Ed ran out to save Matt's life. Matt was gone, but now he had a knife. Matt swung and Ed fell to his knees. He looked at him and he began to plead. "What happened, Matt? Have you gone insane?" "I can't help it, Ed. She's inside my brain." Matt plunged the knife right into Ed, but it hit Ed's lucky can instead. Ed ran off, found a place to hide. Matt couldn't find him even though he tried. Ed felt like he was in the clear till he saw her eyes and screamed in fear. Matt rushed over and opened the door, and Ed jumped out with a furious roar. They both fought so savagely that the little girl clapped her hands with glee. Tom burst in, they stopped in surprise. "Trying to sleep, come on, knock it off, guys!" Stared at Tom with an evil grin, but her powers had no effect on him. So Tom kicked her out the door and said, "Don't come back anymore." The curse on Matt and Ed was gone, so they both turned and looked at Tom. "Why couldn't she possess your mind?"
You can't possess something twice.
Eddsworld fans, I have an announcement. Tom is possessed by a demon. That's right. For years he's been trying to hide this dark secret, hoping that none of us would notice. But today, we leave no stone unturned. We're going to get to the bottom of Tom, and the demon that lives inside of him. The first hint at Tom's inner demon comes at the end of Trick or Threat. Kate, the little witch girl from Crash Zoo, finds that, unlike the others, she cannot possess Tom and is kicked out of the house. When asked about this, Tom says,
You can't possess something twice.
The episode just sort of ends here, so we never really get to find out who or what possessed Tom in the first place. To find this out, we need to go beyond the Eddsworld canon and go to Tumblr. After his departure from Eddsworld production, Thomas Ridgewell made a post regarding the character. He revealed that, initially, he wanted his character to be possessed by a demon, a rage demon that would break out whenever Tom got too angry, sort of like the Hulk. This demon is actually why he designed the character with black eyes in the first place, which makes that whole video I made completely pointless, but I digress. Of course, this was all non-canonical. Tom was no longer part of the show when he made this post, and Ed never really agreed to this reasoning in the first place. So, for further evidence, we need to look at Power Red. Remember this thing? This monster that seems to come out of absolutely nowhere? We know that this has something to do with Tom. It's implied they turned into this monster after being punched by Eduardo, but it's never actually explained why in the episode. I'd just assumed it had something to do with the radiation emitting from Eduardo or something, but Ed seems completely unaffected by it. This monster is just unexplained and it comes out of nowhere and is never mentioned again. It just makes no sense. Until you consider the blog post. According to Tom, the demon inside of him comes out whenever he gets too mad. I don't know about you, but this...
Ha! Who's the loser now?
would be enough to make anyone angry. That monster we see was not a monster at all, but was in fact Tom's inner rage demon out of control and breaking free from Tom's body. This demon monster also makes an appearance in the Crash Zoom episode Orcs and Dorks. Crash Zoom is a web show written and produced by Tom, and there have been hints within both shows suggesting that it is indeed set in the same universe as Eddsworld, with Kate appearing in Trick or Threat as the most immediately obvious crossover. In this particular episode, Kate summons the very same monster using an evil spell to create havoc at a convention, and it is clear from the satanic imagery that it is not just some generic monster but is definitely a demon. And if there is any doubt about whether or not this is actually Tom, we see at the end of the episode the demon's arm turn into that of a human's. A human with Tom's distinctive blue hoodie. Finally, let's look at the end, and one of the most interesting Easter eggs in the show. In Todd's secret lab, we see some blueprints on the wall showing Tom's demon monster, but this doesn't make any sense. Does this mean that Todd was behind that whole thing in Power Red? Or does it mean that Tom wasn't actually possessed to begin with? Maybe, but there is another possibility. What if Tord is trying to replicate the Rage Demon? Remember, Tord spent many years with Tom as a flatmate, so it's completely possible that he has seen this thing in action before and wants to use it for his own evil purposes. This makes even more sense when you watch through the episode. Dear viewer, I ask you this. What is Tord doing throughout the entirety of the End Part 1?
Classic stupid Tom. Classic stupid Tom. Why don't you sleep on this sofa?
Trying to anger Tom. Think about it. If Tord is already there retrieving his giant robot, he may as well try to obtain the power of this indestructible monster. If he could get Tom to turn into a demon, he could experiment with it, clone it like in Spares, or mutate it for his own evil ways. And what better way to do that than to make Tom incredibly, incredibly angry. So there you have it. Tom is actually sharing his body with a rage demon. Tell me if you disagree or agree with me in the comments section. I'd be very interested to hear your take. As always, I look forward to seeing you in the next one.
Ha! Who's the loser now? Help! Lame. Oh no.
Wow. Watch out! Ah!
No one hits my neighbor but me!
Everyone okay?
It's a lie! Two to the one, to the one, to the three. Entertain me, peasants! What's wrong? Hey, hey! You got some balls lying to me. I lie a lot, so you'll need to jog my memory.